Well, well, well. It is Wednesday again, and oh my God, I think Jack is feeling very, very tired. So tired, he's asked me to kind of step in and look after the library for a bit. And I must say, I'm quite excited to do this. Already, I've had a look at his database driven citation chaining system of managing all the information, and I've decided to change it to something far better, the superior manual backward and forward chaining system, a return to the old school. Right. It is a Wednesday, and of course, that means it is Tittle. And today we are talking all about dragons. And I have some good, esteemed scholars, gentlemen, and a lovely ladies, in fact, to hopefully talk us through the origins of dragons, where they come from, and why they exist across multiple cultures that have never met each other. So, without further ado, so long as she is no longer having technical difficulties, she's been educating us one book at a time, the amazing Alyssa. Hello, Alyssa. Oh, I think. No, there we go. Alyssa, can you hear us? No? No, I don't think so. I'm sorry. I think she's having a few technical difficulties. So we will move. Oh, we'll move on to. He comes from an empire where the sun does not set. It's the wonderful and mysterious Yang.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Yang.
Yeah,
How are you, sir?
I'm good, but just to let you know, the sun does set at about 6:30.
At about 6:30.
So about another hour and a half.
That's not
Two
too
and a half.
bad then.
2.5.
So but it is a mysterious land, is it not? The Empire of the
It
Undying
is.
Sun.
It
I've only
is.
had a brief sojourn to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very good.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
I may take you up on that offer, and I will look forward to it. I was one of the fingers when I did a one shot with Yang, so a thief, and the lore, the history, the setting. It was really good. Enjoyed it. So we've also got joining us on this channel. He keeps the goblins at bay, smiting them before they get up to mischief. I ask you this question: have you seen any goblins of late? That's because he's doing his job. Welcome, Steve.
Greetings, programs.
It's good to have you on board, Paladin Steve. How are you doing today, sir?
It's a pleasure to be here as always. So.
Excellent. And, well, hailing from Wales, the best country in the world, he knows a lot, and I mean a lot, about dragons. It is the Drake himself, Brass.
I don't know that much about dragons. I just make things up, to be honest.
Well, to be fair, I think that will be enough for tonight. Yes.
Yeah.
I got a feeling a lot of people make things up about dragons. It's the stuff that goes into legend and myth and becomes what we know today.
I don't know about you guys. I mean, I've actually seen a couple of real dragons from some place called Komodo at my local aquarium. So,
oh wow,
they breathe fire.
I don't know. I think they had that gland taken out.
It's a bit of a shame. Bit of a shame. And to help me, because I am terrible at multitasking, is intern number 2, and that is my lovely wife, Vicky.
Hello.
Hello, Vicky. So Vicky will be managing the chat, and super chats are open. So if you want to leave a super chat, ask us any questions whilst we go through this fantastic discussion about dragons, please do so. Just to let you know, all super chats do still go to Jack on the Talking in the Library. So if you have any questions or want to just bring something to our attention, want us to discuss something, just drop us a super chat, and we'll make sure it is noticed and talked about.
However, I would like to highlight that should we hit a target of 10 super chats for Jack and Vixen, next week, Dean will become Count Dean for the whole stream, frilly shirt and all.
Yes.
I will make sure he turns up, because that's what interns do to each other. I will make sure he turns up frilly shirt onto the stream, and he has to be a count the whole way through. All right, so 10 super chats and he'll do that. What do you reckon, guys? Do you reckon that's worth it?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
There you
I've
go.
got a frilly shirt and the proper cloak and everything.
Oh,
It'll be a
That was
proper
my
job.
question.
Yeah,
Cloak or
yeah.
no
My
cloak?
cloak.
has to have a cloak. Has to have a cloak, and I may even put on a bit of a stranger accent for the show, but we'll wait and see. However, I don't
Saying
think
you don't
we're
have
gonna-
one right now.
Oh, God. Thank you. Ooh, off to a good start.
And
Count
I would just
Dingula. Yes, Count Dingula.
I will have counting you. So
Yes.
whilst you're settling in, and before you get into all your stuff about dragons, I think we just need to say hi to a couple of people. We have an Ashray in the chat here. So please get better soon. I don't want you being too poorly now. Right? You make sure you get better. Lots of fluids, lots of rest, please. We have a Jeffrem. We have a Jeffrem Denkar in the house. Lovely to see you. And we have a Tim Kiss. Hello, Tim Kiss. And we've already got
Oh, wow.
we've already got from Jeffrem a super chat, $5 Canadian dollars, with a question about the favourite dragon from literature. What we're going to do is we will circle back to that question. I'm going to pin it so we don't lose it, but we will circle back to that in a bit. Fantastic. If I missed anybody, shout out. Oh, we've got the AGP. So we've got Amazing Gaming Productions. He's there in the chat and he's busy creating animations for his superhero system. So welcome. And we also have over in Rumble, we have Helping Hand 23. Hello. And last but not least, we have, I'm going to say this wrong, Carrie Asteria. I think that's right. Might be wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So thank you so much for joining us all today. It's just fantastic to see you all there.
It is. So, we're talking about dragons, and I know this is probably a topic that has been talked about several times, but my interest in dragons comes more from before dragons ended up in our literature, modern day-ish literature, and pretty much before they ended up on the tabletops that we like. I'm talking about the dragons that appear across major cultures around the world, cultures that have never met each other, and yet they all have these mystical beasts, typically serpents. So within Europe, they're typically fire-breathing, quite big-winged, and we're talking like Beowulf, St. George, Norse mythology. As we move sort of across to East Asia, and I think this is probably around your area, Yang, it's more serpent-like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're very often associated with things like rivers and water, imperial power. Yes.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. And then we move to Mesopotamia and a famous dragon, Tiamat, within their culture. In Africa, they have Ninki Nanka and Grutslang, which are two dragons, very much a kind of mix of elephants and serpents, or crocodiles and serpents. So some really strange things there, but again, very the descriptions of them being very draconic in nature. And Australia has the rainbow serpent, talked about in many Aboriginal traditions. So, having a think about this, my first question to the panel really is thinking about dragons and where they are within our myth. Do you all have a favorite dragon or a story that has influenced you and one that you'd like to talk about right now?
I mean, I'll go first because mine's probably the least impressive.
Go on,
I
Brass.
don't, I feel like a lot of dragons in literature and media are like before my time, because I find a lot of modern fantasy tries to stay away from them, or you have the Game of Thrones dragons and things which are not they're fine. But my favourite dragon, because it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, is Deathwing from World of Warcraft.
Deathwing. Do you know what, Bruss? I've never heard of Deathwing from myth and mythology, but
I know.
carry on.
That's
Yeah.
about. I mean, look, that's
That's as far back as you go.
I
is
don't
it?
know any named dragons from myth and mythology, unfortunately. I guess. I know
You know
types
a
of
named
dragons,
dragon.
but
Yeah,
I
but you,
get
you know
Tiamat.
you know a named dragon from myth and mythology within World of Warcraft, which is perfectly fine.
Exactly. Is it
That
real?
is-
So no. So it's a myth.
Yeah.
Right. It's mythological. There we are.
Absolutely. So this dragon that you know, could you just give some history of the dragon?
The history is this thing. Basically, Blizzard pulled it out their ass in Cataclysm. There was very little lore behind him. There was some. He did pre-exist, but he woke up, destroys half the world, destroys the game too. Actually, with his expansion he released with him. But I feel like the reason why I say Deathwing is because he, to me, is the stereotypical, quintessential big red dragon. I know he's technically a black dragon, but big fire-breathing, volcanoes erupting, raining down fire on everyone as he flies around, and he just wants to destroy the world. Nice and simple.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Yeah. Because I'm not aware, when I was doing a bit of research in this, I wasn't aware that many of the dragons that we base what we now consider dragons on, don't think a lot of them, whilst some of them were evil, some were were kindly, helpful. Others were, I think within Indian culture, there was a dragon that was causing problems, which quickly got destroyed. But typically, dragons don't tend to rip apart the world. They're not these beasts that have incredible power. It's almost like we've given them power. I'm thinking back to like St. George and the Dragon.
I think that, I mean, we've had a similar discussion before when it comes to how, if you look at ancient stories, even gods in ancient stories are kind of tame in their power to what fantasy and sci-fi comes up with today, right? And I think it's just because as technology's advanced and as, you know, stories have advanced, at the end of the day, a dragon doesn't feel as threatening to our modern culture if it's as big as an elephant and can breathe fire, and that's about it, but it can be slain by a knight with a lance, because we have F-16s.
Yeah.
So we kind of need to have, like, dragons in modern fantasy, like, they need to appear impressive compared to what we're capable of doing. Otherwise, it's just kind of, or at least compared to the setting they're in anyway. And with a lot more magic and all, and, you know, anime levels of power, dragons need to grow in power. They grow in size, they get bigger and stronger and more threatening, and then you end up with like Dragon Ball Z. There's one that's bigger than like 500 galaxies. So
yeah, it gets a bit silly. Well, what's your thoughts on that, Yang?
On my favorite, or on what Brass was talking about?
On either, actually, on both.
Well, I do agree with Brass. Certainly, in dragons don't work kind of as well in modern fiction, because why do you need one when you have attack helicopters?
Yeah.
You know, and nuclear missiles, they seem a little underwhelming. But insofar as my favorite, you know, there's a lot I could go with. I could go with Smaug. I could go with, you know, certainly, you know, Nightwing and his cohort, or even Puff. But I feel like I was asked here for a reason, so I will go with Qinglong, the Azure Dragon from the East, who takes his place as one of the four animals in the Chinese mythology. He lives under the ocean. He is guardian of the East. His color is blue-green, and he represents the growth of spring.
Wow. That's fantastic.
very different to Deathwing.
Yeah, just a little bit. Do you know what I love about this is that our ancestors' representations of dragons is very different to what we consider dragons, and I'm not too sure at what point that began to change.
I have ideas.
Go on. Would you like to share them with us?
Sure. Well, I think the original dragons were water dragons. And you can notice certain phenomena, like let's say you're on a mountain and you're looking over a valley, and you see a river winding through it. It looks serpentine almost. And then there are times when you see rain coming down, and it comes down kind of in sheets, which can also look a bit serpentine. So it would not be a far stretch to think of our ancestors who, had not yet discovered irrigation, that they need the waters from heaven, which the dragons provide. But when we get into these all powerful and mighty dragons who breathe fire, that specific dragon seems to have been spread by the Proto-Indo-European cultures.
Yes.
And you can see it sort of move from east to west until it hits Europe. And there we end up with the fire-breathing monsters we know today.
Yes. Which is absolutely a common thread within European culture. Dragons are typically depicted winged, fire-breathing, not necessarily large. I mean, the dragon that George slew, it was first of all subdued with the lance. Then the princess's girdle was tied around its neck, and it was led tame back to the town, where St. George then killed it with a sword in front of the townsfolk. So it must have been quite a small dragon, really. Reminds me of the what we were talking about a bit earlier, the Komodo dragon, and whether maybe something like that might have been the beast in question. Or
artwork, I feel like, always seems to depict it as like the same size as his horse that he's riding on, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, Steve, Paladin Steve, what sort of dragon are you most fond of or wish to talk about?
Well, the one I'm most fond of would probably be Bahamut. He was my chosen deity when Jack ran his one shot back in November when I played a paladin. But I would say probably the number one dragon in my heart, the one that most influenced me, most brought me into the world of dragons to begin with. A truly fearsome creature for anybody who knows the legend, unless your name happens to be Peach Dragon.
Oh, I've got that on my
Nice.
list. Yes.
So he was the very first dragon I ever met, followed shortly by the Reluctant Dragon. But it was just seeing a creature of that size and that power and the gentleness that it could have, followed by the absolute rage that it could put out when you cross it, when you make it angry, just absolutely fascinated me when I was a kid. To the point I wish I could find it. It's a book that I love a whole lot. It's not like an actual book, but it's kind of a largish picture book that details a wizard's journey with a bunch of knights and stuff like that across the realm by order of the king to rid the land of dragons. And it's like written in old script using old English, and it's got pictures that are supposedly samples that they took and stuff like that of poisonous barbs and different artist renderings of the various dragons that they came across. Like I said, if I can ever find this thing, I'll send you guys a picture of it. But just and these were completely different from anything that you'd seen, because you've got the intelligent dragons from Dungeons and Dragons, many of which can speak. You've got the dragons from Chinese mythology, many of them, wise patrons of the people, guiding them through life. You got the Western dragons, which is what this book was mainly about, which were very, very animalistic, and we're going to burn your village and eat you for lunch. And that's what this was detailing, and just the various different forms that you saw within it, because it wasn't like a single form of dragon. It was many different shapes of dragons, just like you would find with any type of creature in nature. And dragon lore is just very, very fascinating. But Peach Dragon was the one that started it all for me. That guy is awesome.
Yeah. I remember as a young lad watching that film and being absolutely fascinated. I think the way they put that together, it was Disney at their finest, and it was that mix of live action with a drawn dragon, a cartoon dragon, but the way that it interacted with the world. Um, it was some of the things I watched, some of the behind the scenes where they had like the tarpaulin over Elliot at one point, trying to pull Elliot down. Because of course, for those of you who haven't seen this film, it's an incredible film. I would highly recommend it. The original, not the remake. And Pete was the only person, apart from a few others, who could see this dragon. And this dragon was an incredible dragon. It was like, I believe it was green with purple hair and purple little ridges and stuff like that. Yeah.
And a giant Jay Leno chin.
Yes. Oh, it was a fantastic dragon, but they made it larger than life. And this is a film which was also musical. So there was this lovely musical pieces going through it. And I think it was the first time I saw a dragon on screen and absolutely fell in love with it.
And
Well, I
it
think
was
the way
absolutely
you guys are going at the moment is all around sort of the literature and media. So I've just popped back up Jeffram's lovely super chat here, because then I think we can just keep sort of going around.
Yes, so he's asked us for our favorite dragons from literature or other media, and I think we've made a pretty good start on this. I'm just wondering if we have any other sort of any other dragons that we have a great fondness for, and I'm thinking now more to potentially literature, because obviously the introduction of dragons into literature, I'm having a think of some of the books that I read when I was younger, and I think the first dragon I read about might have been Smaug, which was The Hobbit. What about the rest of you? Have you got any dragons in literature that you think really stand out, or have a fondness with you?
Well,
Yang? Yeah.
okay. Well, I will go with. I've got two. First is the dragon from Farmer Giles of Ham.
Ooh.
Which, I thought Tolkien wrote it, but now I'm not 100% sure if it's based on old stories that he just kind of reinterpreted in a modern way, or if it was a completely original story. That was kind of good. And the other one is from a series that has kind of been forgotten. It was a big 80s thing, which is I will go with the White Dragon Ruth, who was written by Jackson in The Dragon Riders of Pern.
Oh, now I think Vicky, that's a book. Unfortunately, it's not a book I've read, but Vicky, you've read those books?
About 1 billion times, yes. Yes. Jackson's the undersized dragon, the dragon that was white and wasn't as big as all the others, the runt of the litter, the ones that they didn't think would actually get out of the shell. Fantastic dragon. Loved that series. Dragon series of the Riders of Pern, just superb. And McCaffrey, fantastic author.
Yeah, it's a shame. We've never seen any adaptations of it, and unfortunately, Anne McCafferty has passed for quite a while. But it's a series that if you were there, you loved it, and if you weren't, you've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Her son, I think, has taken up the mantle, because Todd McCaffrey was writing some, and they weren't bad; they were all right. But I think the older books that you've got from her, they would have made a phenomenal series done properly.
Yes, we're getting some really good stuff in chat as well, Vicky. I'm sure you're probably keeping track of some of it, so we can talk about that as well. Not at all.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing some of those up.
Not a problem. Thanks so much for that, Yang. I'm thinking, because obviously Smaug is quite a famous dragon, but it was the Kryn books that really took it for me as well, because I read them soon after, and the dragons within the Kryn series, I forget a lot of their names, but they are absolutely, they come across as imposing figures, especially, and I'm kicking myself here, the one that was in the ruins right at the start, that came up, melted Karaman with her breath weapon, and started to try and lay waste to the party. And that was the first time I sort of read of a D&D dragon, and I found that quite impressive. Yep. That's probably another good one there. The book of the Daughter of the Drow.
I swear that Ashray's done that to try and make you pronounce the name personally.
I think Ashray has done that to make me pronounce the name, and that's Ziprazora. Ziprazora? Am I close? No?
I don't know.
No.
Does anyone
Does
know?
anyone know how to pronounce
I was
that?
about to say, does anyone know that? What
I speak 4 languages: English, Bad English, Submarine, and Gamer, and that doesn't come from any of them. So
I have to admit, I don't think I've actually read Daughter of the Drow. It's one of the ones I haven't read.
Yeah,
That's a really good one. Thank you, Ashray.
No, that is a lovely one. That is. Brass, do you have any other dragons from literature or anything like that? A second best dragon?
Literature, like I was thinking then about all the books I read, which is not a lot, considering I'm meant to be a fucking author. But like all the fantasy novels I've read, I don't think any of them had dragons in them. Because as I alluded to earlier, I think a lot of modern fantasy, up until a certain point anyway, kind of tries to stay away from dragons, because I feel like in the 2000s, which is where most of the books were written that I've read, I feel like there was this dragons are a cliche, so my fantasy world isn't going to use them. Because I even did that for a while. When I was started writing, I thought, I don't want to use dragons. Everyone has dragons. I'm gonna go with something different. And I feel like everyone ended up doing the same thing. And there's just this void decade where like you just don't get a lot of dragons. And that kind of sucks. I need to read Dragonlance. I know Jack's going through it. He said he's going to lend me the books. I'm probably just going to buy my own at this point because he's taking ages. But I would like to read books about dragons because, like you said, I know about the black dragon scene you described, Dean, because Jack said it a few times. Black dragon's one of my favorite dragons. I think they'd work really well as like a horror villain, like the alien from Alien, just walking around a village, dripping acid and consuming people. But like again, I've not actually read books with dragons in it.
Yes, I'm kicking myself now, and again, it's probably a set of books I need to pick up because I used to know all these names, and with age comes a bit of forgetfulness. You turn to other projects, and a lot of stuff you used to know almost off by heart begins to fade. But the Kryn books, I found them absolutely fascinating, and I love the interaction with the dragons. And dragons are such a part of Kryn. In fact, there were 2 dragons. The astral dragons in Kryn were the mother-father dragons. They gave birth. The gods allowed them to give birth to all the other dragons, the chromatics and the metallics. I had and this is my kind of a memorable dragon for me. I had the astral dragon within the Forgotten Realms campaign that I was running at the time, 2nd edition. And it was because during the campaign, the party had gone out to kill as many dragons as they could. And they eventually killed the last dragon. As far as they were aware, on the Forgotten Realms. It wasn't the last, but as far as they were concerned, it was the last. The kingdom was safe. It was all that stuff. And it was the astral dragon coming in and having its revenge. And that spawned a whole high-level campaign of them trying to figure out what was going wrong, why the world was becoming what it was. And I found the astral dragon actually quite an interesting concept when you read about it. It lived, I believe, it lives in the astral sea, so it's ageless. So yeah, and it's incredibly powerful, but it's a power within AD&D that's not really represented in its stats. It's just it's got abilities that it can just effectively.
I'm surprised they're even in AD&D.
Yeah, it's
well, like a 3rd edition invention or something.
No, they came in with the Kryn book for 2nd edition.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I found the idea of the astral dragon quite fascinating. Steve, you've been a bit quiet. Have you got another dragon you quite like?
A lot of people would probably I wouldn't be surprised if chat blows up because of what I'm about to say. Oh, that's not a real dragon, but Maleficent.
Yes,
Maleficent.
That's a good one.
Yes,
look, I get it. throughout the story, it's a evil sorceress who turns into a dragon, but still, when she does that transformation, the sheer size and malevolence that she displays in her fight with the prince,
Yeah.
the just that completely dark body, the green flames, just not holding back at all as she tries to kill this guy to keep him from undoing everything that she's done. Like that right there is one of the best examples of dragons I have ever seen.
Yeah. I remember watching that film. It was after I'd watched Pete's Dragon. So you can imagine you go from Elliot, Pete's Dragon, to suddenly Maleficent turning into this huge black dragon, fire everywhere. It was a masterpiece of cinematography because she filled the screen. Her wings barely fitted on the edge, and fire was everywhere whilst this knight was fighting her. I think you've chosen a great one there, Steve. It's I'm not too sure what chat would say about that. You're right, she turned into a dragon, but it was a dragon nonetheless. As far as I'm concerned, I think that stands. I think that stands. What do you say, Brass?
I mean, yeah. At the end, I don't actually remember if I watched that whole movie, but I know the scenes. Like I've seen the like the ending. I've seen the fight against it. Honestly, I forgot that dragon was even a sorceress to begin with. I just remember the dragon scene. But yeah, I think because that dragon, I remember talking to Jack about it. He always talks about, oh, how big should a dragon be? And I think that was a good example of this is a big dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Yang? Do you think that dragon counts?
I think so, because who's to say? Maybe it's really a dragon pretending to be a person.
Oh yeah, could it be?
Could be.
Good point.
I mean, silver dragons do that all the time in the Dungeons and Dragons world. So
you never know.
Yeah.
So, and to your cinematography point, one thing I wanted to mention back to Pete's Dragon. One of the things I loved about it was like throughout most of that show, like the dragon itself was pretty much seen as a cartoon.
Yeah.
Up until somewhere later in the movie when they tried to capture it. And then they went to like a practical set where they had basically just this big giant contraption under a sheet pretending to be the dragon. And like that was the moment in the movie where you see all these, people trying to tie down this gigantic thing, and that's when you finally get the realization of, oh my god, how big is this thing?
Oh, it is. They had this whole animatronic kind of frame underneath, didn't they? And so the townsfolk who were trying to capture the dragon through this big tarpaulin over, they had ropes, they were trying to tie it down. And it was great because this cartoon dragon could now be physically represented in the real world through this fantastic bit of cinema. And it was incredible. It's for a young eyes that are full of imagination. That was an amazing, if slightly terrifying scene.
So I mean, and the thing that I appreciate most about that scene, though, is it really gives weight to just how big these things are, because a lot of people don't see it. Like you take a look at what was it, Game of Thrones? Those dragons don't appear all that big when you're looking at them until they get the scenes going in a certain way, and then you're like, holy Christ. When you realize the size and power behind these things, which, I mean, even for their world, yeah, they're kind of small, but it's a different world than Dungeons and Dragons, where the dragons are adapted to a world where the people can fight back with magic. They don't have that in Game of Thrones, so they're not going to grow as big, but they're still insanely powerful for their world.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying. Is that also apparently like an ancient red dragon in D&D is 40 foot tall according to 3rd edition. I think when like raised up or something, that's twice the size of a house. And like, I don't think it's very easy for most people to picture that in your mind, because when you're watching it on screen, or you're playing a video game, or you're reading a book or whatever, you don't really have the like the ref.
Oh,
are you still going?
There he is.
You're back.
Oh, there
You're
we are.
back.
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, we don't really have the reference for the size. Like a lot of dragons, for example, might say, all right, this is 16 foot tall, is slightly bigger than your average lamppost or something. And you could look at a lamppost and think, right, that's really tall. But it's hard to imagine a creature that is actually that big because we don't have real world examples. Even dinosaurs, right? Dinosaurs, you know, they can get 16 foot tall. I'm talking about the 40-foot red dragons. Realistically, I mean, a brachiosaurus, but did anyone see a brachiosaurus in real life? No, because they existed hundreds of millions of years before us. So the best we could do is go to a museum and look at a skeleton.
Yeah.
I just pinned up
Oh, yeah.
what
That's a good point.
Alyssa said, where she was saying that recently heard that Jurassic Park made a world with dinosaurs terrifying. Now, dinosaurs are big, but not all of them are DBZ size. So, yeah, can we all learn from this? You know, writers and DMs, we've got plenty of writers and DMs here. Can we learn from this?
I mean, another thing to remember from the Jurassic Park movies too is it was a story where they were going through genetic engineering, and one of the things that they were specifically pointing out was they were doing this all for capitalism, right? A lot of the a lot of the dinosaurs that were in there were not represented properly at all. The biggest example being the Velociraptor, shown as this 6 foot tall speed machine that is absolutely ruthless. The actual Velociraptor was only about 2 or 3 feet tall and covered in downy feathers.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of sensationalism that goes into it, part of it being to feed the story, but part of it too, because that's what makes a great movie. Nobody's going to be impressed by a movie about, a giant herd of 3 foot tall dinosaurs jumping a dude.
I think as well, it's the
Nibbled
use
to
of
death.
the dinosaurs, because they might be in a modern setting, and as I said earlier, something like a T-Rex, if it was walking through New York, like you can make it look scary in a movie, in a book, but in real life, it would be scary for all of 5 minutes, and then the military shows up. And I think, like in Jurassic Park, they usually have them like ambush them in jungles where your firepower doesn't mean anything because you can't see the thing, or they're in a kitchen and there's just 2 children trying to escape from it. That whole thing that you don't really get much military firepower involved in Jurassic Park, and so a T-Rex is something that is far beyond what anyone can deal with, and it's this massive rampaging monster that you can't really stop. Like your modern car isn't going to stop it, and so that's kind of all you have.
I wonder if there's a cultural difference too, now that you mentioned that, Brass. Over here in the US, I mean, we could just pull out the old long guns and end our dragon problem pretty quickly. I wonder if they're more feared in Europe.
Well, maybe, but like, I mean, even in Jurassic Park, because I'm pretty sure there's scenes in some of the new ones, people pull out all sorts of guns and they're shooting a T-Rex in the face, and it just shrugs off the bullets, which is unrealistic because people have done tests on ballistic things and all that, and anything over like a Magnum will kill a T-Rex. But I think they have to sort of have this sort of almost fantasy level of plot armor to them. Otherwise, if you had a realistic movie about what would happen if dinosaurs appeared in the modern world, they would be captured and experimented on instantly. And even if they broke out, they're probably just getting killed. It's the same thing as zombies, I suppose. Like, you've got to have a lot of plot armor for zombies to work.
What you're saying really is Jurassic Park isn't anywhere near as scary as we make it out to be.
Yeah, it takes liberties to be scary.
Yeah.
I do think that we just need, so Ashtray did point out, as my cat decides to launch on top of the cupboard, that Alyssa was referring to the novel, not the movie. And that's that's quite interesting, because do you think that it's easier to imagine these creatures when you're reading a book and how frightening they are versus translating that to a movie screen? I mean, dragons as dragons or dinosaurs in this case, as you read in a book, when you've then got to take that image from the book and transfer it to screen, do you think sometimes you can't translate that fear enough?
I'd say, because I'm trying to think, like, bears can be very scary if you were to meet one in real life. And also in a book, you can have any setting you want, and you can put the characters in any vulnerable position that you want. And it's easy to imagine someone in there, they're waking up in the middle of the night and they're in some rural area, like barely any town, like houses around, or a small village, or somewhere where people are just living a peaceful life. And then a T-Rex shows up. That's going to be a very scary experience. And I feel like on screen, I guess it depends entirely on how they're done. Like, I haven't read the Jurassic Park books, so I'm not really sure. If you're going for like a horror vibe, you can do it, because it's like I said about, like, a young black dragon could be a really good horror movie villain in a small village, even like a modern setting, as long as you don't have modern military superpowers and things showing up. But I don't know. It's difficult to put into words what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think Alyssa's actually captured this quite well, where she said DMs and writers learn how to make dragons scary in a similar way, and I think that's a really good point, Alyssa. See, you might not have headphones that are working, but we're doing our best to make sure you're part of the show.
Absolutely, we're going to definitely get you back on next week, because you've come up with some great stuff, some really good stuff there.
So, two things I want to say, because it was pointed out that we were talking about the book, not the movies. In the book, Dr. Grant is talking to Tim at one point about what the velociraptor is. And he's like, it's derived in part from the appearance of the animals, which are quick and strong, but small for dinosaurs, just 150 to 300 pounds each. That's not a 2 to 3 foot dinosaur. So even in the book, they were exaggerating the velociraptors.
Good point.
Right. You're not getting 150 to 300 pounds in a 2 to 3 foot tall.
And I suppose it's worth to note as well. I mean, I'm assuming in the book and in the movie, they're on an island.
Yes,
and
they are.
There's no escape. And so I think that adds to the terror of it, because you're locked on an island with a monster.
Yeah,
very much so. But one thing I would like to point out is the scariness involved depends on who's doing the writing and the purpose behind the writing.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton did not write a book intending to make dinosaurs scary. He was writing a book about the awesome power of nature and how the arrogance of man can be destructive when they try to control that force. That's what Michael Crichton was writing. Steven Spielberg took that book and turned it into a movie with some scary ass dinosaurs in it.
Yeah,
I still try with chaos theory and stuff, didn't he? He did try to get the point across.
And I think he still got the point across that it was the force of nature. And it was that final scene where they're seeing, I think it was the pelicans, the condors flying. And it's that reminder of the power of nature and, our small place in it. I think he did a good job. Yang, you've been a bit quiet, and I'm very curious. In Empire of the Undying Sun, are there dragons?
Oh, well, that is a very interesting and somewhat complicated question. No one has ever seen a dragon. In the first chapter, you find yourself in a museum that has what they claim are dragon bones, and there are several vertebrae from a dragon there. And there is a little diorama which looks like it was made by children for a school, with what looks to be a goose with fangs attacking a village. And it is said that modern scientists now believe that dragons had feathers. So much like our current understanding of dinosaurs. But in the adventure supplement, or in the campaign guide, Empire of the Undying Sun, we do not see any dragons directly now. Perhaps in the sequel we might.
Oh,
very
that
exciting.
sounds good. Yeah.
But they
I'm going to interrupt you all
Mhm.
because We have another super chat from Jeff from Denker. $10 dues, Canadian dollar. How does that work? I can't do the Jack thing. Right. So you are sucked into a fantasy world to slay an evil dragon, equivalent to age category 9. You're restored to 18 years old and given 3 magic items of choice. What are you picking and how do you win? I just quite like the idea of being 18 and not aching anymore, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so does everybody know what an age category 9 dragon is?
Is that a? I'm assuming D&D. Is it D&D?
It will
Or
be
is it
in
something else?
one of these.
Is it Great Worm?
I will tell you now because I don't know off the top of my head.
So
but
that's as
this
high
is
as it goes in
fascinating.
my knowledge.
Well, if you go by my chosen medium these days of Castles and Crusades, a category 9 dragon is the highest tier of mature dragon.
I thought
So
it might
that's
be, because it seems very
So-
specific.
Yeah,
Which-
it's a very old dragon by second ed standards,
Yep.
of a rating from 12 being a great worm, the top.
Well, I don't need 3 magic items. I'm picking 1. It's the Ring of Free Wishes.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. What was the question again? It was the category 9
I will read,
evil
I'll read
dragon.
it. Yeah,
you are
so it
18
says-
years old and given 3 magic
3
items
magic
of choice.
items,
What
your
are you
choice.
picking and how do you win? I'm going to answer that question myself right now.
Go for it.
It doesn't
Go
matter
for
what
it.
I pick. I'm dying. if I don't get out of there
Not
fast
with the
enough,
Ring
I'm
of
just
Free
going to
Wishes.
die.
Yeah, but Brass, could you word the wish right?
Well, I
without
suppose if you
killing
dropped
yourself
right
the
in
process?
front of the dragon, like immediately, then no, I suppose I am probably a bit screwed. But I mean,
There's
I
something.
think it was worded like you're looking for the dragon first. You're going on a quest to find the dragon. In which case, you got all the time in the world.
Maybe. Yang, what would you do?
Well, from the Fred Saberhagen series, the Books of Sword, there is the Dragon Slayer sword, which could easily kill any dragon. So I suppose I'd have to take that. I may be one of those dwarf helms from Tolkien's First Age when the dwarves fought against the dragons with the elves. And probably for the third item, just having my luscious long hair that women want to run their fingers through back. I mean, that would be enough.
That sounds fantastic. I got to
We
be
all
honest.
just want to be 18 again.
Yeah, I just want to be 18 again. I'd take a helm of teleportation so I could get back home and relive my youth.
And then the dragon shows up and burns the house down.
Well, it's a risk I'm willing to take. Some of you may die, but it's a risk I'm willing to take to be 18 again.
So, Steve,
Dragon's got to find me before it can burn the house down.
Exactly. I've got a helmet teleportation. I'll always be one step ahead. So to give you an idea, this we were talking about the size of dragons, and within second edition, they had the 12 age categories, and there were sizes alongside each age category for each dragon. So if we have a look, sorry about that, the red chromatic dragon, for a size 9 dragon, its body is between 118 and 137 feet long. Its tail is 125 to 144 feet long. In fact, I got the wrong one. 137 to 154. So call it 150 feet body and a 130 foot tail. Its wing is typically twice the body. So from tip to tip. And then its neck is probably half of the tail again. Do we think that's too big?
Not necessarily. I think they use the same ones in 5th edition in the Book of Dragons, by the way, as well. I think that's where they got them from. And in that, they said it's 22 foot tall as well to add another dimension to it. One on all fours, anyway. And to be honest, I think that is category. Is that ancient? Or is there's
No,
not
no.
a label on it? Like
Category 9 is very old, I believe it was.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, ancient would be category 12. So you're talking the biggest red dragon you can have in second edition would be 183 feet body, so almost 200-foot long body, with a tail of 170 foot. Its wingspan would be almost 400 feet from tip to tip. So this thing could land on a castle and pretty much crush the inner keep of that castle.
I think the wingspan's about right. Because when you compare something that size to a building, I think it looks big. When you put something that size in the middle of a field, I don't actually think it looks that big. I think football pitches are a perfect example of this, because I think, I'm going to look this up because I might be wrong, I think the average football pitch, British football pitch, is 300 feet. Because I think they're 100 meters. So they're like Big Ben on their side, I think. I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but either way, when I think of something, 100 to 200 feet, that's not even the length of a football field. And when I'm walking past a football field like the AstroTurf, because those are, I think, the right size compared to like stadium ones, I'm imagining a dragon is obviously that's going to be huge, but something that's half as long as that is I don't think it doesn't seem that big to me.
Yeah.
Like as you said, like it would be really big if it landed on top of a castle, and that would fill most of the courtyard of like Caldecott Castle, which, for example. But other than that, I think like it depends. If it's flying around in the sky, it would look like a little bird from miles away.
from miles away, but when it gets close to do a swoop and breathe,
It's gonna look like a really big bird.
If you fight that in a cave, like in a dragon's lair, it will be huge.
Yeah. If
you fight it in the open wilderness, honestly, that'd probably be quite hard to hit if it's flying around above you.
Yeah, it definitely would. I remember, and this comes back to something Alyssa was talking about, where it's the DM and writers, how they describe the creature can very often inform the player, elicit that kind of response. And I always took great relish in describing the size of a dragon to players. And you just watch their eyes begin to open as you, and you're right, Brass, you got to put it against something else. So towering above a tree. So you conjure immediately in the player's mind this big tree, and this thing is even taller than that, and it's having that contrasting.
That's also assuming that you're like describing the tree appropriately, because if all you're saying is towering over the tree and you're talking about a willow tree, it's not a very impressive creature. Whereas if you're talking about an oak, that's a whole other story.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I found that fascinating. I mean, the size of a dragon, how big is too big for a dragon? Do we find if dragons are way too big that they kind of lose part of their essence? They begin to look comical. I'm not too sure.
A lot of that's going to depend on the setting and the way that dragons are viewed in that setting. Like we mentioned earlier, in Kryn and other worlds of Dungeons and Dragons tend to be very large beasts, but these are also animals where they are typically expected to be in combat in some way with the peoples of that world at some point, and the peoples of those worlds have other means than just martial weapons to fight back. So having that additional size, that additional power, is what keeps them in their place in the food chain.
Yeah. I think for Dungeons... Go on, Steve.
I was going to say, go over to Game of Thrones again. Now you're talking about creatures that haven't really been seen a whole lot in recent times. You're in a world without magic, and the dragons pretty much seem to be under the exclusive control of, a family, or in this case, one particular person. These creatures are not very large compared to what we see in Dungeons and Dragons, because the environment's completely different. They don't have to face magic. They're not dealing with a world where they're being constantly, they're not in constant battle with people, unless, the people of that particular family are sending them into it. So, size definitely depends on what the setting and the situation is.
Yeah, I've only watched House of the Dragon. I think we almost completed the first series before I started to. It's a bit too dark and gringy for my tastes, but I did like the depiction of dragons throughout that. I thought that was very well
I
done.
did as well. Yeah.
They didn't. One of the problems you can get with a too big a dragon is the movements can look very comical when they are put onto the big screen. You know, it's moving too fast for its size. And someone mentioned in chat earlier, is Godzilla a dragon? And I think
let me
that's a
find that one.
fantastic question, because you look at the size of Godzilla, and we've had a few really good Godzilla movies of late. We've had some really good Godzilla movies of late, and it's one of those things where, yeah, is Godzilla a dragon? And I'm thinking back to the first Godzilla movie. I forget what it was called, but it's where you had the guy who played Walter from Breaking Bad. Forget the actor's name, but he's in there. He dies fairly quickly. It's his son and his son's journey. And I thought the depiction of Godzilla was absolutely perfect. The size, the immensity, you're looking up at it. And as a creature, you got military throwing weaponry at it, but its sheer size, the bullets aren't bouncing, but they're just not penetrating its massive armor.
Yeah, the sense of scale was really good. It's something you lose in the modern movies because we're looking at him from the top down. We're looking at him from an aerial view, and you know, Godzilla he's not bigger than all the buildings around him, but he's big enough to knock him over and step on things and be completely impenetrable to most modern weapons. But I think if you were to take Godzilla, to answer the question, and you were to put him back in time in front of any culture on Earth, I think they would all call it a dragon.
Yeah.
To an extent, because I think that's about it's a giant lizard, right? Reptilian creature. I think even if you go to like Asian dragons, because they might be like the original dragons, I imagine, but they're very different to what European dragons and all that. But I still think that they would probably still call it a dragon.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there would be any other word or creature in most mythologies that would describe what that is. I mean, some might call it a titan or a behemoth or a leviathan or something like that, but I think most of them would be a dragon.
Yeah.
And in that universe or that iteration of the Godzilla universe, they do refer to Godzilla and the other creatures like him as titans. So all their name, Titanus Gojira, Titanus Mosura, they've all got that family genus name, Titanus something.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read this one out. To be serious.
That was weird.
Yes.
It's a bit weird why that keeps dipping out. Right, to be serious, what a dragon size should be is oddly limited if the dragon's role is to be a primordial terror dwelling in some deep cavern under the earth, a worm as it were. I thought it was really nicely put.
Which actually lends very, very easily into the size of Godzilla, because we were talking about the purpose and the threats that they face. Godzilla is massive and faces absolutely zero threat from humanity. The movies show that. I mean, the only time he even showed any pain was in that first movie, and one of the shots managed to hit him in the gill, and that irritated him enough that he twitched and went right through the bridge. Other than that, there's not a thing that ever got thrown at Godzilla by humans that even made him flinch.
I think
that's not
happened there.
I think you're having a lot of fun, honey, changing all the cameras around.
No, I didn't do that.
You didn't.
But
no, that was not me for a change.
I think it has an interesting thing with Godzilla as well is technically we talked about how Jurassic Park is nature being outside of man's control and all that type of thing. Godzilla is an iteration on that. When you think about it, it's just what happens if you want a Jurassic Park style story, but you do include the modern military and nuclear weapons and F-16s. Well, you scale it up to Godzilla.
And that's the point that I was going for, is Godzilla's threat is not with us. He's fighting other gigantic creatures that pose, some sort of threat to the balance of nature. And so
Plus-
that's why Godzilla's size is appropriate, despite the lack of parity humans have with him in that case.
I think Rodan, at least in the the newer movie, good size for a dragon. And like Smaug, for example, describes that his wings are a hurricane. But the size that Smaug is, not really. Rodan, though, in that movie, I think he's got a 600-foot wingspan, so it is bigger than the ancient red dragon. But there's a scene where he swoops down from the volcano over this town, and everything beneath him is just obliterated like a hurricane's just hit it. And I think that is kind of what you would expect from a creature that size flying that low over your town.
Right. Thank you, Alyssa, for supporting us in the chat. Your comments have been absolutely fantastic, and we really do hope to have you on next week. We've got. I'll let you know what it's all about next week ahead of time, so we can prepare some really good answers and have a great discussion. But thank you so much, Alyssa.
I'm now going to interrupt you because we
Yes.
have another super chat from Jeff from Denker. For
Jeff
two
from
whole
what's-
Canadian.
He wants to see Dean in that. In that
He
count.
does.
He
He
does.
does.
He really
yes.
does wanna
We're
see
up
him
to
in
3
that
out of
frilly
10, but no,
shirt.
we're not going to get there. We're going to be finishing soon. So.
But you never know. I might carry it on to next week.
Oh, that would be cool.
Good idea, though.
Vicky wants to see you in it too.
Yeah, oh, she does.
Is eating dragon meat a form of cannibalism? There you go.
No,
Well, I mean, I'm not a dragon, so no.
only if you eat them
Well,
when they're in human
it
form.
would be for me.
It would be
Yes,
for-
good point,
It would
Brass.
definitely be for Brass.
And a good point, Yang. They would
I'm
be.
fairly
if they were
certain,
in
though,
human
if
form.
they're in human form and you kill them, they go back to their dragon form. So it's still not cannibalism.
You're right. So it's a delicacy.
Yeah. Oh, dragon steaks are a delicacy. I'm reminded of one of a computer game, to bring computer games into it, but it is fantasy-based, Dungeon Master, one of the best games I have ever played. And in the first game, there is a dragon in the bottom level that you kind of fall through a pit, land in its lair, and it's constantly chasing you around this huge arena, throwing fireballs at you. Really difficult to kill, but when you do kill it, it leaves behind dragon steaks. And they are the best food in the game. Just a bit of trivia there. For anybody who hasn't played Dungeon Master, I highly recommend that you boot up an old PC, find it on an abandonware site, and give it a go. It's a great game.
Shrey wanted to point out that one of the items that would be taken to defeat said dragon would actually be a drow item, and that was the cloak. So yes. And Ashray's also commenting the fact that as they are drow, it would not be cannibalism for them either.
So in answer to that question, I don't think, unless it's a dragon eating a dragon, it would be cannibalism. So Brass, you're out of luck, mate.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, you can't eat
Well, no.
dragons.
He's a drake,
I've
not
got
a dragon.
question. I got a question.
Draconic.
Yes, still draconic. I have a question. I'm going to throw it in. And it's actually leaning into the cannibalism. If you've got a dragon that turns into a human and therefore can turn back into dragon, would that actually mean that are they actually human or dragon? And if you killed said dragon, could that still be constituted as cannibalism?
So I have a player in my D&D campaigns who kind of did something similar with one of their first characters. Started off as a fairy, of all things, then learned true polymorph. And the way that spell works, I believe, is if you spend a certain amount of time polymorphed into another creature, you become that creature. And they polymorphed into a dragon. And so they officially became a dragon, but the dragon had another polymorph ability as well, and would shapeshift back into the fairy. So no one
interesting.
knew which, if they were a dragon or a fairy. Who knows?
Now that is an interesting take. Very interesting. I
I was just, I know in 5e, it specifically says that they can take human form, but it does not, they aren't changing species or anything like that. It's literally just, they're polymorphing is all it is. They're still a dragon. They still have their dragon traits. They have the ability to take human form and walk amongst us without anybody having the wiser, unless you specifically know, oh yeah, this person's actually a dragon.
We raised something that has, I've seen a lot of discussion about this in certain arenas, especially people who play games like Dark Souls, because they have both in Dark Souls, a Drake and a Dragon. So Brass, as you're a Drake, can you tell us what is the difference between the two?
It depends on what your definition of dragon is, because a Drake, there's lots of Drakes throughout fiction. And I don't think there's a consistent description of what a Drake is. D&D, it's a wingless dragon. I don't have wings, so Drake. I mean, more like a half dragon or a dragonborn, to be fair. But that doesn't sound as good. But I think at the end of the day, you could. It's like the wyvern thing, of all wyverns and all drakes are dragons, but not all dragons are wyverns or drakes. And my personal interpretation is it is a wingless dragon. That's kind of what I go for, but I don't think that's completely up to interpretation. I think with drakes.
Yeah. Yang, do you? Sorry, Steve.
No, I was going to say I agree completely with it, because the way I've always seen it is a drake is basically, it's a quadruped dragon animal, but it doesn't have wings.
So Godzilla is a drake.
A wyvern has wings, but the wings are part of the forearm instead of separate appendages like the proper dragons.
That's technically not true. The differentiation with a wyvern is it has a stinger. Now, yes, wyverns do have 2 legs and 2 wings, so they're like the pterodactyl sort of style that you were explaining, but dragons can be that as well. There isn't actually an official description saying that dragons have to have 4 legs and 2 wings. So Game of Thrones dragons, for example, I know there's a very popular argument on the internet of that's not a dragon, that's a wyvern. They're not. They are dragons because they don't have stingers.
Yang, did you have any comments on this very deep philosophical discussion between drakes and dragons?
No. I think it's all good. I mean, we're talking about fantasy anyways.
Yep.
I'm not worried about a PhD dissertation in archaeology. So I think you can make it however you want and call it whatever you want. And the more people complain online, the more views your product will get.
Fantastic. Well, see, apparently drakes are indeed creatures without wings, dragons without wings, but serpent-like. So does that mean most of the Asian-based or Chinese dragons are drakes in reality because they are typically serpent-like but don't have wings?
There you go.
I mean,
That's Trey saying wyverns are the wasps of dragonkin.
That's
spot on.
Yeah. That's a bit of food for thought, I think, on the differences between drakes and dragons. It does make me pause for thought because I have seen, for example, in games like Dark Souls, drakes typically do have wings, but they are different. Dragons, wyverns typically always have wings, not necessarily a stinger, but always have 2 back feet. And I believe they don't have forward arms. Instead, they have little pincers on their wings. But that's another discussion, which is, are wyverns actually dragons?
Yes.
I mean, and again, that's going to depend a lot on your setting, because if you look at the Monster Hunter game series, you're talking about a setting that takes place millions of years in the past. Some of these creatures look very much like dinosaurs. I think that's where they got a lot of the inspiration for some of these creatures was, this is what we imagine this particular dinosaur was like, and stuff like that. You got some creatures that look very much like dragons. 2 of them were very much flagship characters of the series, and they look, almost exactly like dragons you would find in modern fantasy. But no matter what the creature looks like, they're all classified as some sort of wyvern.
Mm.
Even though
Yeah,
some of
that's a
them
good point in
do
that
not
one,
look
yeah.
like something that you would ever consider a wyvern.
Yeah, some of them
So
look like a T-Rex, and that's considered a wyvern. Yeah. Like,
yeah. So it definitely the important thing to remember is that terminology is going to vary based on your setting.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I
if
also
you
think
decide
Go on.
if you decide that this is a wyvern, that's a wyvern.
Yeah,
For
I
your
think.
setting.
Plus, I think it's important to know. Is Capcom, is that an Asian studio? Because I know that the makers of Dark
Yes.
Souls are.
Yeah,
So
Japanese.
it could well be a translation thing when it comes to Drake, anyway, with the dragons. Now, World of Warcraft doesn't have an excuse because they're not an Asian studio; they're an American studio, and they have dragons and drakes, and there is no actual differentiation between them. It's just whatever they want to call them. For a while, I think they were trying to go for drakes being male dragons.
I mean, I've also
But-
seen it where they try to use Drake as a term for like young dragon.
That
Yeah.
too, yeah, and it's
Mm.
just I don't really I think originally like wyverns they were separate creatures. They were dragons. Like I said, all wyverns are dragons, not all dragons are wyverns, unless of course you have a specific setting like Monster Hunter that states that they are. So I guess it's up to you. But I think mythologically, like wyverns, they had the stingers, they had the the 2 wings, 2 legs, and I think over time it's been like modern media especially, I think it's just kind of taken dragons and done whatever the hell they want with it, to a point where I don't think there's any actual real differentiation between these things other than what you want to call them. Like in my world, for example, wyverns, I've gone for a very similar thing to Untold Destiny, where wyverns are the dragon experience, right?
Yeah.
They are like if you want to fight a dragon, you're going to fight a wyvern, because actual dragons are either mythological at this point or far beyond you. But in my world, dragons made wyverns because of population problems as they were declining, and they thought, well, let's use magic to make more dragons, and they ended up with wyverns, and that's now what populates the world.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of also bringing in that kind of you want those epic encounters, and it's why it's called Dungeons and Dragons, because it was that epic encounter with the dragon and fighting a dragon. But where you want dragons to be a lot more special, you want them to be far more epic, you can't introduce them too early, because if the players start defeating dragons at a young age, young dragons and so forth, the mysticism around them begins to disappear. And that's why I think having something like wyverns take that role for the initial adventuring careers, low-level parties. I think that's a fantastic way of giving out that experience, giving those epic fights that can be incredibly fun, while still keeping your dragons kind of in the sidelines, ready for the higher levels when they appear truly menacing with incredible power. And again, using great descriptions, good use of language, good use of the size of the creature versus objects and stuff like that to really paint a menacing scene.
I think doing that as well, it helps paint a picture for how powerful the dragons are. When you're fighting a wyvern, you could be fighting something like a Game of Thrones dragon, right? As like people call that a wyvern. So imagine fighting something like that, like Drogon or whatever, and then later on you come across that Category 9 dragon, 120 foot long or however it was, 400 foot wingspan, or Category 12 or whatever it was. Like the difference between them, there is a stark difference there. You know, right? This is a dragon. The cat.
It's a cat.
That's not one of mine. That's one of y'all's.
Lily's just appeared. She's dropped a mouse at my feet, a toy mouse before you. And now she's wanting treats because she's bought me a treat herself.
Oh, of course.
Nice.
Yes, and my camera is now wandering. Fantastic. Well, for my first outing in the library, without Jack to kind of guide things, you've been a fantastic panel. You've kept me on the straight and narrow. You've helped move the conversation forward. I do hope, chat, you've enjoyed the conversation, and we shall have even more riveting conversations in the future coming up. I can give you a hint. One of them is going to be having a good look at a setting that I think deserves a really good deep look, and that is Planescape. Not just the creatures and the mythology, but the artwork and the setting and what tieflings should have been before they got changed.
I played a proper tiefling from
You
Planescape.
did.
I played a proper sigil tiefling back in 2nd edition, and you've got to Planescape is fantastic, but I think as we sort of as we start wrapping up, I think we just go around, let everybody give over their so let's start. I'm going to call it out because I feel like it. I've been all
Go
quiet.
on.
I'm not good when I'm quiet. So Yang, do you want to start off by just giving us some details about the stuff that you've got going on at the moment, where people can find you? Lily would dispute the definition of a Drake team because absolutely she would. Go on, Yang, give us all of your info.
I
Let everyone
am
know.
somewhat in hiding, trying to finish up Empire of the Undying Sun. But you can find me at Twitter or on YouTube at Yang Yanjiao 4. I may or may not be doing a draw stream later tonight. But that's usually where I am. And I am occasionally on the Nerd Council of Doom, which you can find on YouTube at the Nerd Council of Doom. I'm not sure when our weekly meeting is, but we discuss plans to take over the world through sorcery and science and modern culture.
Sounds fantastic.
Okay, Paladin Steve.
So I really don't have anything myself. I don't, I show up as guests on streams every now and then, like today. So I really don't have anywhere that you're going to find me other than lurking at somebody else's show. But I do want to give a quick shout out to Elden Maiden. Troll Lord Games has officially released their new Adventurers Backpack book, which contains her name in the credits because she collaborated with them on a new class for it called the Blade Dancer. So if you are into Castles and Crusades, get that book. It's got great classes and great stuff to help out your players.
Fantastic call out. Thank you. And of course,
and you do yourself poorly there. Follow Paladin Steve on Twitter, because every now and then he comes up with this amazing
it's been taken
post.
over.
He talks
It's
about
been taken over, honey, right?
What?
X. It's no longer Twitter.
I know it's Twitter. It's fine.
X.
Twitter X, whatever you call it. He comes up with these amazing posts, like turning you into gaseous forms and putting you in bottles and throwing those bottles and getting the whole internet to start talking about it. So please give him a follow. He's well worth it. His tweets are fantastic.
And of course, the Brass Drake.
I know. Well, I have been working on a little series on YouTube about how powerful are D&D adventurers, and I've done my part 1 of levels 1 to 5. Absolute banger of a video. It's got like 10k views, and I got like I'm nearly 500 subscribers actually. After that one video, I was 214 before, and now I'm very nearly at 500. So hopefully by the end of it, I will be. I'll have more subscribers than Jack.
Sorry, we're
what
just pausing. Yes, I feel strongly that dragons should be monsters, not become another animal steed, which people turn them into. I absolutely agree with that. I think the riding of a dragon should be incredibly rare, if ever, and only done with the dragon's permission. That said, I think they did it well in Kryn. But Kryn dragons, I think, need to be treated very separately to normal dragons. Otherwise, absolutely agree. What do you think, Yang? Dragons, monsters, or pets?
Yeah, no, it's like everything in modern media. For whatever reason, we want to make evil things good or misunderstood or make them friends or whatever. No. Dragons should be evil. The only time they should befriend you is when they're on their way to betraying and eating you.
Yes. What about you, Steve?
Totally agree.
I mean, I'm very much with the TTRPG side of things when it comes to dragons. You've got your good dragons, you've got your evil dragons. An important thing to remember, though, is that just because they're good dragons doesn't mean they're going to come over and sit down for tea and have a chat about what y'all did last week. these are still, monstrous creatures with their own way of things in the world. If you go waltzing into their lair without a damn good reason, you probably just volunteered yourself to be lunch, regardless of what the particular disposition of that dragon is. So do not, mistake the idea of good dragons versus bad dragons to be friend versus enemy. They're all very capable and very likely to kill you if they feel up to it.
Yeah. And anything to add there, Brass?
Yeah, I think like Dragon Riders is a cool concept and a cool fantasy. And I remember when I was younger, I used to like imagine that in my fantasy worlds, people riding around dragons. You got How to Train Your Dragon, Dragonlance does it, Kryn, all that sort of thing. But ultimately, I think dragons need to be rare. They need to be special because they're supposed to be like the apex of the monsters in your world in fantasy, and so they need to be rare, powerful, dominant. And like Steve said, because I say this a lot as well, a metallic dragon may be good aligned, but mortals usually aren't, and so they don't trust you unless you earn it.
Fantastic.
That's good.
Great.
Yeah.
And Brash, you said how many followers have you got now? Subscribers, I should say. Have you now got on YouTube?
Subscribers is 492.
Wow.
Oh, we've got to get
so
on to
close.
500.
Yeah, because I that video, as I said, I started 214, I think, subscribers, and in that one video, I've gained almost 300 more. So
That's fantastic. And
by
that,
far
and
the
that
most
video,
successful video I've done.
that video you were saying with all the other stuff you had to do, with all the creating of the images from Hero Forge and stuff, that took quite a bit of time, didn't it?
Yeah, the Hero Forge models is my biggest time sink. I've been working on a few today. I've managed to get the fighter model from level 6 to 10, but I got to do the wizard and the rogue and a few others as well. The editing, not too bad. It's only a 10-minute video, but yeah, they're just making Hero Forge models because you got to try and give them that visual progression, but you don't want to go too bombastic because I got to save some of that for later levels as well. So
you do.
It needs to look realistic, look believable, but it's difficult to do, but
yeah,
I'm sure.
So if you haven't seen it, head over to Brass's channel, have a good look at it.
And if you ever need help making a Hero Forge module for yourself, call the Brass straight because he's brilliant with it.
Oh, he's amazing with that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I do spend a lot of time on it.
I think that's
hadn't noticed.
At 500, does brass become silver? Ooh, that is a good question.
Good point, actually. Tell you what, guys, get me to 1,000 and I'll change my name to the Gold Drake.
You heard it here first, guys. Get him to 1,000.
We're going to clip that, put it out as a short. 1,000, you say?
Oh, yeah,
we'll make
1,000.
that
Yeah. Challenge accepted.
Yes. Right. Well, thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you, chat, for your support. Thank you, panelists, for the fantastic discussion we've had. And thank you, Vicky, for looking after things on the chat side whilst I mumbled along and took us all for a journey amongst the dragons. And
thank you, Dean, for hosting. And thank you, Vicky, for managing everything.
I, as I said, I have big shoes to fill. I can't wait till Jack is back. But in the meantime, I will look after the library the best I can. So
the only reason they're big shoes to fill is because Jack is such a clown. Don't give him too much.
Steve, you're in. He's your DM.
I know. He's not only my DM, but he's the one that holds my oath of lost lore as well. So.
Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you next week. Got an absolutely fantastic topic lined up for next week.
We have.
And with that, I'm going to send you all to bed, and Yang's got some drawing to do. So here we go.
What are you talking about? It's only 5:30.
You guys, would you watch Yang do some drawing?
Well, it's probably like 10 o'clock tonight.
10 o'clock tonight.
Another 4.5.
We'll be asleep by then. Yes.
Yes, we will.
Well, definitely thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome, Steve. It's been great. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.